Hi everyone, welcome back to Designer Heroes Forge. Today we're going to be continuing the paint guide on the Canoptic Wraith and showing you how to bring the model up to parade ready standard. When we last left off, we'd painted the model up to battle ready standard, which was applying the few main coats to really make the Wraith actually look like it's more than just a pile of plastic on the table. So, first up, we're going to be applying Canoptic Alloy to the shoulders and the face, followed by a coat of Cryptic Armor Shade Gloss to all the brass components, followed by Null Oil on all the steel components, Wraith Flesh Shade of the Canoptic Alloy, an edge highlight of Stormwest Silver, and lastly we'll be detailing the glowing part using Warp Lightning. So we will come back once the Canoptic Alloy is done. And with the Canoptic Alloy applied, the Wraith has taken shape much quicker than with just battle ready paint. You can see the face is now fully coated, as well as the back. Now for the next step we're going to be applying Cryptic Armor Shade Gloss to the brass components along the back here. And as an optional stage, I quite like to coat these two front limbs. But you could also coat these 6 smaller limbs and then the 6 even smaller appendages along the sides, as well as the casings on the transdimensional beamer or the particle cannon, depending on which weapon you've built it with. So we'll come back once that's done. And with the Cryptic Armor Shade Gloss applied, the brass details are taking on a much darker and grimier effect, really helping sell the grim dark aesthetic of the 41st millennium. Now we're going to be applying Null Oil to the couple of silver details, so I'll skip swapping back to that because all it's going to do is give it a gunmetal effect, which we've probably all seen on thousands of little details. If there was more silver on this, like the Nilak Dynasty, I'd show you it. But just these 2 blades and the tail, there's not much point. So what we will cut back to will be the Wraith Flesh Shade applied to the Canoptic Alloy. So see you in a minute. And we're back with the Null Oil and the Wraith Flesh Shade applied. The Null Oil has darkened the silver details, and the Wraith Flesh Shade has toned down the brightness of the Canoptic Alloy a bit. You can see I've got a little bit on the white details of the eye. If that happens when you do it, just paint over it again. Not the whole face, just the white details. Now we've got the edge highlight to do, which will not be applied to the black components of the Wraith. Only to the brass and Canoptic Alloy components, as well as the steel components. So we'll come back when that's done, and when you do this yourself, this bit is likely to take the longest out of every stage of the Wraith. So take your time and use the edge of your brush to, as the name suggests, edge highlight the model. So we'll be back in a bit. And with the edge highlight done, the model looks drastically better already. Now I've not applied the edge highlight to the entire model, as I do find with the amount of silver that gets added it does become a bit excessive. But it's really up to personal taste. I've stuck to the more or less the top 2/3 of the model, doing the front forearms, the blades, as you can see, the face, and the top shoulder pads. Now all that's left to do is to apply the glow effect. So there are 2 ways to do this, which I'll grab examples for you now. There is the effect I typically tend to use for my Zarkon Dynasty army, which is to use Hexray Flame, which does leave quite a lot of the white showing through, and works brilliant for recessed details like that. Or there is a method I tend to use on my HQs or character models, which is to use warp lightning, which is what we'll be using here. It's a lot darker. It doesn't let as much white through, but you can still see it poking through ever so slightly in a couple of spots. So we'll cut back once that's applied to all our white details. Quick refresher for where those are is here and on the eyes and the tip of the cannon. We've got some hidden in the gun itself. All of these little dots on the underside. These orbs on the back legs and down the tail here. As well as these 3 on the top. So we'll come back once the warp lightning's applied. And with the warp lightning applied, the Canoptic Wraith is just about finished. All that's left to do is apply a texture paint of your choice to the base of the miniature. Some examples, if you're only just starting out with Warhammer 40k, would be Stellan Mud or Stellan Battle Mire, which is a more heavily textured and heavily lumped together version of Stellan Mud. There's also Astro Granite and Agrellan Badland. You'll see these used in other models. Here's a few examples of the first and the latter paints. This is Agrellan Badlands. And on this Necron Royal Warden, we've got a mix of Stellan Mud and Stellan Battlemire. I'm not going to be basing this in this tutorial, as I will likely do a separate tutorial at a later date on how to base miniatures. So, with that done, I'll give you a quick look at the model. As you can see, every detail that we've covered in this parade ready guide. And then I will leave you there and see you next time. Thanks for watching, and I hope this was helpful.